Gratitude and Anthology is out.
With over 50 different perspectives and stories on gratitude, this book captures what most books don't. The secret sauce is in the number of voices and stories where you'll be sure to find a personal connection to so many as I did. A really excellent book, David Freeman. Found exclusively on Amazon.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Palmer, and welcome to GratitudeSpace Radio. We are doing a kindness hour, all about it. So let me bring in my good friend, Jenny. Hey, Jenny, how you doing?
Great, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to GratitudeSpace Radio. So thankful and grateful for you to be here today.
I'm delighted.
Yes, we've been, so Jenny and I met, we've been talking about doing this for many months. So this is the power of people connecting and following through with conversations. So I'm so glad that it's happening now.
Me too. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, it all working in good time for sure. I know we've both been busy, so it's good that we could do this now, and it's a great time to do it. And I love to start these. I like to think of every relationship has so many grateful moments that lead up to the relationship and the moments, right? So it's like, I'm very grateful to be sitting here with you right now. And on my side of things, I just wanted to share, our connection is with a gentleman named Kevin Monroe, who is very into gratitude. He does gratitude meetups. He does a lot of things in gratitude. And I met him simplistically because I have my podcasting partner, Peter. He just sent me one night. So Peter's in Hong Kong, and he just sent me before he went to bed, because there was 12 hours difference. He sent me a link to Kevin's meetup, which was the next day when he'd be asleep, and said, you should just check this guy out. So I got this thing in the morning, and then that afternoon I got on this Zoom call. I think I was actually even in my car because I had to drive somewhere. And next thing I know, I'm having a conversation with people about gratitude in this space, and a whole bunch of people I'd never met. So it was it was awesome. So that's my, and I think that was the first time I met Kevin. So the second, because I did a second encounter, gratitude encounter, I believe that's what he calls it. That's when I met Jenny, and that's how we are here now. So to explain to me how did you meet Kevin, and how did we get here?
Yeah. Well, I met Kevin and his gratitude actually through kindness, which makes sense because the two are often traveling on the same path together, or hand in hand. Some time back, I had met through LinkedIn an amazing woman named Joanna Servana, who lives in Wales. Joanna had started an organization called Be the Ripple to help bring more kindness into the workplace and to stop workplace bullying. And she and a connection of hers, Scott Leeper, who is with Imaginosity in Scotland, did a Kind Fest USA in December. And I had the pleasure of being a part of that. And both Kevin and I were facilitating different kindness tables in different virtual rooms. And my particular topic was around gifts that inspire kindness. And Kevin's was around kindness and gratitude. And so that's where we first got connected. So it was through kindness that brought me into the gratitude, that brought me into, my being in the realm with Kevin, and also with you, Chris.
That's beautiful. I see there's so many people to be thankful. There's so many moments. And then if you were talking to somebody 20 years ago and you're like, yeah, and I met so-and-so, we had virtual tables in this virtual space, they would think you were crazy.
You're right. It's a little hard.
It sounds like, no, but I can picture it, obviously. And it's amazing because, connecting with people, like, people that want to connect, like the magic's there. They show up, and then next thing you know, even if it's in a virtual space where you're in different virtual tables, next thing you know, you're having a conversation with somebody you never would have met in your entire life, and in a space that doesn't really exist.
World, right? Yeah. Yeah. Without getting on an airplane, without, running into somebody on the street somewhere in a different country. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I remember last year I was listening to Cal Fussman's podcast, and he was an interviewer for Esquire magazine. He's an author, and he was talking about how amazing it is now, that people are used to using Zoom and video chatting, and how it's so much more personal than if you were to go and meet somebody in a coffee shop. Like if you, we have each other's attention, and we're like in this our own space, so we're actually more present. And because you don't have to rush off to go somewhere, it makes it so much more possible to happen on top of that. So it's like we live in a just completely magical time in history. That's how I feel when I wake up.
I agree, and it's one of the gifts that have come along through the really difficult struggles of the past year and a half or so.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, people had to kind of be pushed into getting used to this scenario, and then technology had to step up and go, we're going to make this as easy as possible. So it's a combination of things that just, again, like, and I was speaking earlier, it's like, I really do believe like everything that happens in life is either a gift or a lesson. They're all sitting there. So in a situation where we can't, where people aren't supposed to go out and be with each other, it's like, well, the gift we were given was technology stepped up and said, well, if you want to, here you go. All this stuff was already in place, but now it's become a necessity because, you need to connect, and here we are. So possibilities abound.
Yeah.
So, speaking to us meeting, obviously, I believe, like I said, I believe it was the second time I met in Kevin's group. I can't remember if I shared a little bit about. Did I share in the group a little bit about my story, or was it we just saw each other and we decided to connect off LinkedIn, or?
Yeah, we decided to. I don't even remember if we got in a breakout room, or what that was, but there was a connection and around gratitude and kindness, and so we had a one-on-one Zoom chat, and then really started to find out that there was an even much deeper connection that we could have imagined.
Yes, and I remember real well hearing you share your story, and when you got done, I was just like thinking, I can't wait to be able to have the conversation again, sit back with fresh ears, and just be able to share it, because it's such a beautiful, awe-inspiring. I was even this morning talking about it and how excited I was. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to do my best to be quiet, and we'll just start with, I think when we initially talked before months ago, we started with you explaining how you got into kindness, and then you started to go further into the story. So please just, I'm all ears.
Yeah. Well, so I remember as we were talking in our one-on-one, and you were sharing about your book and the letter, the Dear Gratitude letter that you wrote to your mom that started that whole thing, and where your journey really started with gratitude, and that was really touching to me. And what's kind of funny is that you shared. I was thinking about this morning. I think I know the exact date that we had our Zoom chat. It was a date in February, because you were sharing about, on your birthday, deciding that you would write a letter of gratitude to your mother, and that you posted that to pay respect to and show your gratitude and appreciation for her giving you life and all she'd done for you. And I remember thinking, hey, that's exactly what I think is right. Being a mom of three, it happened to be my daughter's birthday. I have a son and two daughters, and my two girls were born on the same day, 6 years an hour apart.
Right.
And so I give them a hard time, and you know how they say, many a truth is said in jest, and I'll say like, well, it's my birthday too, So when they were planning their first adult when they were trip together, they went to Disneyland to celebrate their birthday, and I thought, well, where's my invitation? It's my birthday too. They'd say, no, it's our birthday, and I would say, you were each born once. I gave birth twice on that day, so I'm thinking it's my birthday too. So it was just kind of ironic that was the day that we were having that conversation, and I thought, oh, I cannot wait to let them know that there is a book that now validates my thought. They're still not buying it, and that's okay too. So anyway, so then when you were sharing about the loss of your mom and what that loss was from, and I realized the connection of breast cancer, right? And so I started sharing with you my gratitude journey. That was really powerful for me. So in 2013, in January, instead of writing New Year's resolutions, I did declared an intention, and declared that 2013 was going to be my year of gratitude. And I was going to celebrate that and recognize that by, on a regular basis, writing notes to people that I was grateful for and sharing that with them. And I was going to just, focus more on what I had to be grateful for and less of what I wanted, and and more of more of what I did have. And so my mom in April of that year came to me and said, I need to let you know I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And my mom had had breast cancer 40 years before, when I was a kid. And she'd been cancer-free for 40 years. And she was 84 at the time. So that was a pretty big deal, pretty shocking. And she said to me, are you up to date on your mammogram? And I said to her, I don't know, let me check. And I was, at the time, I was a busy working single mom, 3 kids, working full-time plus, and I had really kind of lost track of, my taking care of my health like I needed to. And even with a strong family history of breast cancer, where I needed to be having a mammogram on an annual basis, I wasn't quite sure where I stood. And so I checked into it and found out that I had missed my annual mammogram by about 9 months or so. So it was definitely time to get back in. So as my mom was dealing with breast cancer, she was getting ready to go, excuse me, with my kids and me over Mother's Day to Newport Beach, California for a vacation. So the doctor said, you can go ahead and go, that I want you to have a lumpectomy as soon as you get back. So we went on our holiday together, came back. I took her in for a lumpectomy. I met her remarkable doctor, Erica Lloyd, and just kind of had a weird kind of sense that there was something at play that was more than the very big deal of my mom having breast cancer again after 40 years. There was just, I don't know, some kind of foreshadowing kind of a thing. But so I think it was the day or 2 days after she had her lumpectomy, I went in for my screening mammogram. And they found something suspicious and sent me to have an ultrasound and continued to be suspicious. And so I ended up having a biopsy, and they confirmed breast cancer. So my mom and I are going through breast cancer at the same time, and I would joke with her and say, can we not bond in another way? How about a trip to Europe or something like that? Because it's a little much. So anyway, with my story, with the cancer that they found in me, it was in one breast, and they thought that the lump was about 3.7 centimeters and still a good size, but they thought it was what's called DCIS. And I learned that there are a lot of different types of breast cancer, and so I was starting to get educated in something I really didn't want to be educated in. But DCIS means it's ductal carcinoma in situ, and they were thinking that the cancer was contained within the duct, but they wouldn't know for sure until it was removed, whether it was contained, and they wouldn't know for sure until that happened whether I'd have to have chemo or radiation. But they did tell me that, if you're going to have breast cancer, this is the best kind you can have. So, that was good news, right? So I remember thinking, so I got the word from the radiologist on Friday night. Wanted to let me know before the weekend, so I didn't, stew about it the whole weekend. And I remember I was at a shop with my daughters. They were getting glasses, and I had to go outside when I saw the call come in, and then I had to go back in while they were trying to pick out new glasses and act like nothing was happening, and wear my sunglasses inside so they couldn't see my eyes. But what was really interesting for me, and I think that's a big part of the gratitude, was that the next morning I went out for a walk on my local trail, and I was listening to my favorite local musician. His name's Peter Breinholt. His music just makes me happy and lifts me up. And I'm walking on the trail in a space that should have been, or you would think that I would be like in a really dark space and terrified because I was afraid. But I just remember it being a really uplifting walk with my music. Seeing the mountains that reminded me of my dad, who had been gone for a number of years, but loved the mountains. and like a hummingbird coming along, and that reminds me of my mom, who is just tiny and fierce.
Mm.
And it just felt like there were so many beautiful things that were coming, being sent my way, from God, from the universe, to help lift me up in what was going on. I just remember that being a really beautiful walk. And I also remember thinking, I was definitely afraid of what was in front of me. I had no clue what that path was going to be. But I was also curious. And people would ask, "How are you doing?" And I would say, "Well, I'm kind of curious." And they say, "What does that mean?" And I would just say, I really think that I'm going to be okay on the other side. I don't know what's in front of me, and that scares me. But I'm curious to know. I know I'm not going to be the same person that I am now. And so I'm curious to know, you know, who I'm going to be on the other side of this. And so anyway, I have an amazing friend, Jim Anderson, who is a leadership consultant. He is just a bright light, a mentor, and he stepped in to help coach me through this whole process, which was remarkable. And when I tell you that Jim is the kind of person, the first time I met him, 10 years before that, um, I learned that his goal was to make 1 million heartfelt connections. And so I've come to know since that time that that's too low of a mark for him. He needs to aim higher. So, but Jim has written a book called How to Find the Silver Lining Behind Every Dark Cloud. And with his coaching consultants and others that he helps to mentor and coach and, help along their journey in life, he'll ask them a question when something happens to them, whether it's a divorce or an illness or loss of a job or, death of a child, just whatever. Yeah, that's a hard one. I can't go to the death of the child one. But, when you have obstacles and real challenges in life, to ask yourself this question: what's perfect about this for me now? And so I spent some time with that and thinking, okay, what is perfect about this for me now? Well, I'm going to have some challenges that are going to stretch me. Maybe it will work to help bring my kids and me, closer together, in pitching and pulling together and being there for each other. And my daughter was getting ready to move to Michigan, and it would allow for more time, for us to be together before she did that. And so anyway, so that was part of the thought process, but still being pretty afraid. And so I did set about trying to learn as much as I could about my diagnosis. And I had what was called a tumor board, where I went in the morning. There was an oncologist, an oncologic surgeon, just different folks in different disciplines all met together around my case. And then I sat in a conference room, and they would come in one at a time and share what they would recommend, right? And my different treatment options. And I kept saying, they would give me all these different options, and I would say, so if I were your daughter, if I was your wife, if I was your sister, what would you recommend? Because there's so many options, and I'm not a medical person. And nobody would answer. They would always say, as long as whatever you choose, as long as you follow the protocol, you're going to be fine. So that was good, but it was also, it didn't help me the way that I needed to, to be helped in trying to determine, because when you're faced with something like that, it's like, okay, I could get a lumpectomy and then see what's happening. I could get a mastectomy, on where the lump is. I could get a bilateral mastectomy because of my family history, and if I do this, there's going to be this treatment or this medication, or there's just so many things to think about. And so it was really important to me to be able to learn as much as I could and really think it through, because with all those choices, I wanted to make sure that, one, whatever choice I made, I could literally live with, right? And I didn't want it to be a choice that I would come to regret. So it was important for me to take the time I needed, and I was fortunate to have that time. Not everybody does, right?
Right.
So I decided, well, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and have the lump removed, And so, because they're not going to be able to tell me anything about chemo, radiation, the treatment until it's been removed. So I had that scheduled for, I think, like July 5th or 6th or 7th, something like that in 2013. So this is about a month and a half after I was diagnosed. And in my reading, I was reading about MRIs and thinking, well, maybe that would be something that would help to give more information. And so I called the gentleman, the radiologist who diagnosed me, and he said, I think that's a good idea. So why don't you call your surgeon and ask him to order an MRI for you. So I did, and the surgeon didn't think it was a good idea. And he actually said to me, you have enough decisions to make as it is. I think that, an MRI may just muddy the waters for you. And so he didn't prescribe one. And this is a surgeon that I had actually gone to a couple of times before, 10 and 11 years before, because I had actually, I think, 7 different breast lumps removed, and they had all been benign.
Oh, wow.
So I'd kind of been in this rodeo before, but it had always been, it had never been cancer. And so anyway, my mom said, I think you should meet with my surgeon and just get her opinion. I've been talking to her, and she said, she'll have a consult with you, and then she'll let you know if you were her sister what she would recommend. So I went ahead, and my mom went with me. We had an appointment with Dr. Lloyd, and bless her heart, I would love to see her give lessons in bedside manner and how to be with a patient and treat people, in such a way that they're being really well respected and understanding what they're going through. I think we had probably a 45-minute consult scheduled, and she was with us for, 2 hours and 25 minutes or something. And she said to me, well, first of all, she did an exam, and she felt like the lump was bigger, like a 7-centimeter lump. And which, by the way, she turned out to be dead on that.
Oh, wow.
She said, I understand what your surgeon is saying about, maybe the MRI giving too much information or conflicting information or something, but I think it would be a good idea, and we'll just hope that it's clarifying. So she ordered the MRI for me. And pretty quickly I determined that even though she wasn't within my insurance program, I felt so confident with her, and so I trusted her completely, and felt like she was a real advocate for me. That I canceled the lumpectomy, canceled that appointment with that doctor, and she became my new surgeon. I also changed the reconstructive surgeon that I had scheduled, that I didn't really feel was making a real human connection with me, and found another really excellent reconstructive surgeon, and just had created this amazing medical team, and both women doctors. So I still went about trying to figure out what I was going to do, right? Because I still had a big decision to make of what I was going to do. And I got this strong family history. I wanted to be around for my kids as long as I could be. And so I was learning as much as I can. And not only reading about different treatments, but I wanted to talk with women that had actually gone through it and find out what the human experience was too. So one of the things that, there were so many gifts that came from this experience for me. And one of the gifts was just the amazing women that step up in this sisterhood and support each other, and, that have been through this and will help, kind of hold your hand or help give you your own insights. And I'm so grateful, for that sisterhood and how that helped get me through. So anyway, I ended up ultimately deciding on my treatment. I was going to be as aggressive as I could, and had my surgery scheduled for August 21st of 2013. And so it was actually like a 12 or 13-hour surgery. It was pretty grueling. Grueling for the doctors, grueling for my mom, grueling for people that were waiting for me. I was a piece of cake for me until afterwards, of course. And so afterwards, a couple of weeks later, I went in to my appointment with Dr. Lloyd, my post-surgery follow-up. And she said, just the day before she'd gotten the final pathology report, And she said the pathologist found a second cancer. And I will never forget, this. My mom won't either. She said that second cancer is ugly, ugly, ugly. And it's the second worst kind of cancer, breast cancer to have. And she said the reason that is because it's so fast growing and aggressive. And she said to me, if you had waited even a couple of months for your surgery, that second cancer would have cost you your life. And that was pretty sobering. And I said, and she said to me, but it was so tiny, that second cancer was so tiny, I don't think you'll have to have chemo or radiation, but I want that to come from an oncologist. So when I went into an oncologist appointment a couple of weeks later, he agreed and said, Chris, it still blows my mind when I think about this. I mean, I'm so far past this journey now that sometimes it feels like it's a whole different world. But he told me that second cancer was like smaller than a sharp pencil dot. So, and he said it was the smallest cancer he'd seen in his practice. So how that pathologist even found that, I don't have any idea. It's such a blessing. To me, it's such a God thing. And how that, what normally would have been a really dark day in May of that year when I got the diagnosis, how it turned out to be such a huge blessing. Huge blessing in disguise, right? And I know that at some point in time I would have gotten back on track, gotten back in to get my annual mammograms. But I also know with that second cancer, it would have been too late by the time I did that. And so I feel so incredibly blessed from that. And it wasn't like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing because I'd gotten lax in paying attention to my health like I needed to be. I was just too busy doing all the things I needed to be doing. And I don't remember if I told you this when we talked before about it, but so I mentioned about how when I took my mom in for her lumpectomy, that it felt like there was something else at play. And this was a few days before my mammogram. And I had actually, so that was in May. In February of that year, so a few months back, I had actually felt the lump myself. And I had done nothing about it. I had had 7 lumps before. They'd all been benign, and I had just gotten complacent, and I just got busy with my life, and I just thought, okay, it's the same old, right? And it wasn't. Clearly it wasn't. And then the other thing was the previous summer turns out to be about the same time as I should have been having that annual mammogram and hadn't done it. Wasn't even on my radar. I was up in Park City, Utah in a hotel room, middle of the night, by myself, wide awake, laying in bed, and it felt like somebody had, like there was this rush of cold air that just rushed across my body, head to toe. And I got the most gigantic, instantaneous goosebumps. I'd never had that experience before. And I had a very strong and immediate impression that my dad, who was my knight in shining armor and my protector and defender, and had been gone at that point. I think he passed about 5 or so years before, maybe 4 or 5 years. And others who had already passed that also cared very much about me were very concerned about me. And I had no clue what that meant. I mean, I puzzled over that. I only told a couple of people about it at the time. I really had no idea what that meant. Not once did I think about they were concerned about my physical health. And I have no doubt that my dad on the other side somehow, I don't know how he pulled it off. You'd have to know my dad. I don't know how he did it. But my dad and my mom on some type of from my mom's subconscious, some type of spiritual level, I feel like she offered up herself to get my attention. It was like being hit over the head with a 2x4. And I wasn't paying attention to everything else. I wasn't getting the mammogram. I didn't pay attention to the lump. Same old. I just, yeah. So I feel so incredibly blessed. And I tell my mom that, she's given me life twice.
Hmm.
And first time, of course, when she literally gave me life, and the second time when she asked me that question, "Are you up to date on your mammogram?" So, as that was in August when I had the surgery. Found out about the second cancer in September. As I'm healing, and it was a long time healing because it was a very serious surgery, and but I just thought a lot about the experience, and thought about, if I had a magic wand that I could wave away the diagnosis, I wouldn't, because if I it was not a picnic by any stretch of the imagination, and it was hard, and I missed, you know, um, physically who I was before, and just, there was a lot. But if I waved away the diagnosis, then I would have to wave away the gifts that came through that experience. And that was really powerful for me. And it's like, yeah, I can't do that because I'm not willing to give those things up. And so when I have an opportunity, one of my passions, I have several, we talked about kindness just a little bit, but one of my passions is in helping to spread the word about making sure, for women, that they are up to date on their mammograms or what other screening device that there is, that they know their body, they know that there's changes, and also reminding men that men can get breast cancer too. So that's an important thing to remember. It's a lot more rare, but it happens. My mom's had breast cancer twice. Her twin sisters had it twice. I've had it two different types, but one time. I lost a beautiful cousin a year after she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and was treated. Then it metastasized, and we lost her a couple of years after that. An amazing woman. My mom and my aunt have a male cousin who's had it. So it's definitely in our family. But just because it's not in your family, there's not a history, doesn't mean you don't need to be paying attention. And so when I have an opportunity to speak to, whether it's a small group or a larger group, and share my story, it's just wanting to remind people that, pay attention to your health. You are your best health advocate.
Right.
And sometimes it's so easy to, especially for women, I think we're so used to serving, right, or taking care of others, that we put other people and their needs first, and sometimes forget that if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're not going to be able to take care of our families and others around us. So I'll ask the people, in the audience that I'm speaking with, and just say, please think about, the handful of women, in your life that are, for yourself and others, that are the most important to you. And then do me a favor and ask them the same question that my mom asked me. And, you may very well be saving a life like she did. And, and I think back with my mom that, 40 years before, if she hadn't been paying attention,
Right.
if my dad, when she and my dad went into to meet with the doctor, and back then things were kind of treated differently, and she found a lump. They went to the doctor. The doctor said, I think it's fine. We'll just watch it the next 6 months or so. And my mom and dad said, no, we won't. We're going to go in and we're going to find out now. And if she hadn't done that, what the cost would have been. She wouldn't have been around 40 years later to then save my life. She wouldn't have been around to, she was a wonderful school teacher and have the impact on so many kids and teaching so many kids and starting a Draper Visual Arts Foundation and teaching kids art and restoring artwork and helping me with my kids and my brother's kids and grandkids, and just the wonderful impact that she's had if she had not been paying attention all those years. So we really do. We owe it to those that we love and that love us and count on us to be watching out for our health. And the scary thing, that's been lately with COVID, and this is for other types of, it's not just breast cancer, other types of cancers, other types of things where we can be screened and be checked on. Because there are so many things that were pushed back as being non-essential, that there's a figure that I read, I think it was in the fall, about because of delays in screenings and treatments with breast cancer, and I think with colon cancer, I'm not sure what else there was, but upwards of 10,000 or more people losing their lives because of delayed, attention being paid to their health and the screening and the treatments and all of those. So, we just need to get back in and get those appointments and make sure that we're paying attention. Because it can literally be life and death, or the quality of life. So,
Right.
yeah. So that, and so I get to the end of 2013 and just go, so I started this year as my year of gratitude. It also became my year of breast cancer, and there's absolutely no discrepancy between the two.
Mm.
So anyway, that's that, the 2013 gratitude journey in a nutshell.
Oh, thank you. That was so beautiful. I'm just caught. I heard most of that second time. I'm still caught up in it. So thank you so much. It was so beautiful. There was so much good stuff. I was doing my best not to think of questions. So the most recent thing that came to my mind while you were talking, you talked about your mother being aware 40 years ago, and then obviously what does that mean, right? And like you said, just raising you and being there for your daughters and all these moments, all these gratitude moments, all these happy memories, right? Like I was thinking, the only reason that I was even conceived was because my parents had a miscarriage. My parents only wanted to have a boy and a girl, and they had my sister in 1975. And I'm guessing it was in 1977. My mom was pregnant with a boy, and he was born premature. And I guess he lived something like 23 hours, and which is horrible. But speaking to, learning or being aware, because that happened. For example, one thing I told my dad last week, I said, well, I know that was a horrible thing that happened, but if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't exist. And also, and I wrote about this in Dear Gratitude. I was like, well, my parents, because that happened, they had a new doctor, and they knew that my mom could have, had me early. So they had, they elected to be sewn up so that I would be born at the correct time, be happy and healthy. Here I am 42 years later. But that lesson came out of a really painful experience. But I'm speaking from complete gratitude and the whole thing. And he's like sharing that with my father. He's like, I never even thought of that. I was like, well, it's it's out of really troubling experiences, beautiful things do come out of them. So if it's like you said, even 40 years later, you can see your mom took that step, and that, here she is now. And then again, to be there to remind you, think about what if she just disappeared. She wasn't even this great mom, but then she showed up 40 years later to go, you know what I mean? What if it was just to go, hey, you need to check yourself, Jenny.
Yeah.
Let's just say it was just that, like, wow. But you have obviously the 40 years, the memories, the love, the experiences, but it's a powerful thing. Someone, loves you, just reminding you some simplistic thing like get yourself checked, know. It's not like it's a big ask.
No, and in fact, I've got near my desk, I've got a picture. So here's a picture of my mom. I don't know if you can see it very well. So
yes,
that. So this was in Newport Beach. So we did family pictures, and this is right after my mom's diagnosis, right before mine. So I'm a little bit blissfully unaware of what's heading my direction, but it's a good reminder.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So I know a little bit more of the story. So let's continue, because I want you to share about the journal, or the gift that you created for your mother, the kindness. Please, I love that story. So I'm gonna let you just teeing it up.